We are Amy and Matt. We have decided to try and sail our 40-year-old 37-foot sailboat from the south coast of the UK all the way north to the Arctic. An idea that sounds a little crazy even to us.
We're hoping to see polar bears and walrus and sail in the icy waters of Svalbard. We'll sail past the northernmost town in the world to the edge of the charts. It's unlikely to be easy, but it's certainly going to be an adventure. This episode will take us from the UK's most southern point, the stunning, almost tropical Isles of Scilly, all the way up the Irish Sea to Scotland, stopping off to sample some of the local delights along the way.
When we left Portsmouth, because the winds were from the east or the northeast, we chose to sail down here to the Isles of Scilly because it was downwind and it was going to be a beautiful sail, in the hope that in the long range forecast it looked like the wind was then going to shift round to come from the southwest, which would allow us to sail up the Irish Sea. Now thankfully it has now done that, or is about to do that, but it looks like it's quite a short window and it's a little bit stronger than we were hoping for, but still it looks like we should be able to now make an overnight hop on a broad reach up the Irish Sea as far as Dublin, and then I think the wind's going to run out, so it might be a good opportunity to stop in at Dublin for a pint of Guinness.
Only one?
A couple of pints of Guinness. Bye-bye, sillies! Ready when you are?
Happily, the point at which the wind turns in our favour for sailing north is the same time that the tide also turns in our favour. So a midday departure from the Isles of Scilly should give us a nice boost from the tide as we start our journey north.
Ready for Glenarm.
It was a beautiful sunny start from the Isles of Scilly, but sadly that did not continue. With rain often comes wind, and it was not long before we were putting reefs in to settle down for a breezy sail up the Irish Sea.
You have control.
Okay. Coming up now?
Well, that rain cloud came on rather quick and we went up to 25 knots and we very quickly furled away the Genoa, got the staysail out, put a reef in the main and it's gone. I think we keep the one reef in the main just in case the next one comes, and I think we'll go back to the staysail to full Genoa to get us moving. Yeah, okay. Then we'll tidy up this rat's nest.
Thankfully, once the rain squalls passed through, we had lovely weather to make fast progress north.
The rain's cleared and we've had a lovely afternoon reaching up towards the Irish Sea, but it's now 20 to 6 and we're about to go into night watches, so need to have some dinner first and get the bunk set up because I didn't do that before we left. We've hopefully got a really simple one-pot meal for dinner. So we've got some tortellini and I roasted some vegetables before we left yesterday. So I've got some courgette, pepper and onion that should just warm up with some pesto and a little bit of salad. Dinner's ready.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Excellent. Parmesan as well.
Good night. I hope you have a good watch. I'll see you in 3 hours.
See you in 3 hours.
As we approached the coast, the idea of a warm and cosy Irish pub became more and more appealing. We made it to Dunleary, just outside Dublin, on the last of the dying breeze, ready to go and find a pint of Guinness.
Heading into central Dublin was easy on the Dart, just €5.20 each return. We wandered through the grounds of Trinity College and onto Grafton Street, famous for its buskers.
We don't dislike cities, but since we spend most of our time in small, remote, isolated locations, it takes us a minute to acclimatise and be comfortable around big crowds again.
Now we've done really well. It's been an hour and a half of wandering around a city surrounded by
hundreds of thousands of people, and we've been resisting the urge just to go to the nearest green space on the map, the nearest park, which is what we normally do in a city, but we couldn't resist just coming into this one for a minute, have a breather, then we'll dive back into the city again.
So we've got obviously a very traditional Guinness, and then a Guinness and beef stew, and then a traditional bacon and cabbage with mash.
To fuel us for a bit more exploring around the city. Whenever we eat out, we always order 2 different things that we both like on the menu and then swap halfway through so we get to try both meals.
But anyone who's enjoyed a Guinness with a traditional hearty Irish meal will know that instead of fueling you for an afternoon's exploring, you'd much rather snooze in the comfy corner of a dark pub. Unless you then partake in the perfect Irish pick-me-up. That's good. That is actually really, really good.
That's what we do with the drunken sailor. That's what we do with the drunken sailor. That's what we do with the drunken sailor. Early in the morning.
After a tour of the tourist bars, we headed away from the centre to where we had heard about a more authentic Irish pub, where local musicians meet to practice and play. Sadly, we only had time for a brief stop in Dublin before the wind was fair to head out across Dublin Bay and onwards up the Irish Sea.
We're leaving Dunleary Marina near Dublin. That was a fantastic but short little stop. And now we're making some more progress, hopefully, up the Irish Sea. So we're heading north and we're going to sail overnight to hopefully stop in at a small town called Glenarm. And the reason for that is that it enables us to hopefully time the tides further up the Irish Sea past the Mull of Kintyre. The weather forecast was actually for very light winds. There's a lot more wind that was showing on the forecast. We were actually expecting to be motoring for a little bit at the start, but yeah, the breeze has really filled in and we've got some high wind clouds, so we might have a bit more breeze than expected on this passage.
It is a beautiful day for sailing north up the Irish Sea, but it is not warm. It's springtime,
So it shouldn't be that warm, and we've got an easterly wind which is generally pretty cold up here. But it is making us think about where we're going to the Arctic and having ice blocks floating around the boat. It's going to be cold, and although we've got a lot of beautiful warm gear on board, it does make us wonder if we've got enough. If we're wearing this much of it now, how much more do we need when we actually get into the real Arctic? It's a little bit of a worry. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy sailing north on these really calm seas up the Irish Sea. Hopefully it'll continue overnight and we'll have a nice overnight passage to our next port where we should be able to snug down before some strong winds come through again.
Although we've sailed over 500 miles since we set off from Portsmouth on the south coast of the UK, in terms of progress north, we've only actually sailed about 160 miles and it's already feeling colder.
So we're just sailing up the coast from Ireland to Northern Ireland, and we're just about crossing the border now, and I hadn't realised how mountainous Northern Ireland is. I don't know how well it's going to come out on camera because it's a bit far away in the distance, but it's really, really mountainous. I know so little about Ireland despite living in England most of my life. Until we went into Ireland this time, I'd never been there, and I've never been to Northern Ireland, so this will be the first time in Northern Ireland as well. But yeah, it looks like a really mountainous, interesting place to explore ashore. It's just a shame that it only got such a short time to visit this time. Maybe we'll have to come back another year and explore a bit more of the island. Thank you very much. That's good.
It's not just the colder temperatures that we're going to have to get used to, but also the extra daylight hours. Where we're heading, we're going or aiming to be there when it is the polar day, so 24 hours of daylight. And it's currently 6:30, and so a really good opportunity to get used to sleeping when it's light, because this is the time that we always start our night watches. Sadly, I don't get to sleep through the whole night because I'm on watch to take over from Matt in 3 hours' time.
The weather did not play ball in Glenarm, mostly raining with occasional short breaks, but we were glad to be snug in harbour where we didn't have to stand watch in the rain. Making the best of it, we explored in between the downpours.
Glenarm was granted a municipal charter in the 13th century by King John, making it one of the oldest chartered villages in Ireland. Glenarm Castle is now more of a grand private house than a castle, and most visitors come here to visit its walled gardens. At the top of the main street is the entrance to Glenarm Forest Park, 800 acres of forest and walks along the River Glenarm. It's easy to see why Ireland is known as the Emerald Isle, but you don't get all this greenery without a little rain.
Despite the near constant rainfall, we enjoyed a relaxing wander along the river paths to stretch our legs before returning to Florence for the next section of our sail north, from Northern Ireland to Scotland.
Here we are passing the Mullican, heading north. It was a dawn departure this morning to catch the tide, and we have had the tide thankfully all the way with us past the Mull, so we're still doing 8 knots even though we're past it now. The tide was really strong through here. On the way south last year we actually had 13 knots boat speed over the ground, which is pretty fast for Florence because we only really do 6 or 7 knots through the water. But yeah, the dawn departure to get past here and to get as far up this way towards Oban as we can before darkness this evening, and then we'll see what the wind does tomorrow, whether we head on then. I think it's going to be quite light tomorrow, possibly quite light for the rest of the week to get the rest of the way up to past Oban to Fort William and the start of the Caledonian Canal. But yeah, this is why we were waiting over in Northern Ireland for the right weather to come past here in glorious conditions like we have. Well, the sea state's really calmed off now. We've come round into the Sound of Jura. The sun's come out, it's beautiful, but the wind is dropping off and going aft. So in order to keep making progress against the tide, which is now just about turned against us, it's time to put the spinnaker up. just pulled into Carrisay Bay, our first stop in Scotland. The wind died and we just motored in here and dropped the anchor. And shortly after we dropped anchor, the local fisherman, Dougie, came by, recognised Florence and recognised the dinghy because he follows us. And he came for a chat and then he went away. And then shortly later, he came back with a whole load of scallops, which he collects by scuba diving on the bottom around here. These are actually Amy's favourite seafood. And how kind is that? How friendly is that? Just to come round and drop off a whole bunch of scallops for us to try. It's certainly a very good welcome to Scotland.
I really hope that I can do cooking these scallops justice, not just because they were kindly gifted to us, but also because I can appreciate how difficult diving around here must be, because the water is freezing cold and the currents are incredibly strong. You're a strong one.
Mind your fingers with that knife.
Not only dinner but entertainment for the afternoon.
We cannot put this in. I am a roughed up sailor.
It's definitely going in. Amy versus the scallop, take 3. So far, 2-0 to the scallop.
See, so that's saying, open me up, it's open, look. I see he keeps conning me. It's open. I have to admit, I have never shooked, I guess, a scallop before, and this one caught me out because I thought it was going to stay open. I tried to get the knife in there and it slammed shut. Maybe I should have googled this. I think we might have to stop for a Google break. Oh, I've got it now.
Basically you attack from behind so it has no chance of defence.
You go for the hinge first. There we go.
It's still moving.
So finally done. Luckily that got a bit easier as I went along. I've got the scallops and the roe separated from the shells and the skirt and the rest of the inside, and I've given them a good rinse. But Dougie said that if we were feeling brave, then we should actually try them raw, because these are probably the freshest scallops that we're ever going to eat. So he said to cut off a sliver and give it a try. So I guess as you're holding the camera, I'm the first one who has to be brave, eh?
Yep. Brave as you were earlier.
That's actually really delicious. It's really tender, a little bit sweet, like they are when they're cooked, but just a different... I'm going for more. I told you I like scallops, yeah?
That's really nice. It's a really delicate flavour. It doesn't quite melt in your mouth. You have to use your teeth a little bit, but not very much. Yeah, it's really, really nice. I don't really know why we're going to bother cooking these. We could just eat them all. Or maybe we eat some of them raw and then cook some of them to see what they're like that. But that's really delicious.
I'm going to make a creamy garlic pasta for dinner with some courgette, and then pan fry the scallops in a little bit of butter and garlic.
Nicely presented, Amy.
A bit awkward to eat though.
Yeah, just get it off of the shell and onto my plate. Really nice. Really nice indeed. Well, thanks, Amy, and thanks, Dougie. That was a very nice way to welcome us into Scotland. These are delicious. Thank you very much. We're up early again this morning to make the most of the tide. We're coming up through the Sound of Liang, and although it's neap tides and we're nowhere near the height of the strongest flow of the tide, we still had 3 knots of tide with us through that gap, so we're doing 9 knots over the ground despite it being really light winds today. In fact, there's supposed to be no wind on the forecast today, but we woke up at dawn this morning and we could hear the wind whistling through the rigging, and we were going to stay back in Carasay Bay, but the chance of actually having some wind to sail on, we thought, nah, we'll get up early, we'll go, and that wind disappeared, but thankfully some wind has reappeared and we're able to sail this section on towards Oban, which we thought we were going to have to motor. So yeah, absolutely beautiful, and it's beautiful to be in Scotland. The scenery is just fantastic, and it's amazing that it's only been 2 weeks since we left the south coast and we've already been to the Scilly Island and now we're in Scotland. It's fantastic to be out cruising again. Now this is a beautiful evening. This is why we come to the more isolated anchorage up in Scotland with the hills as the background. And this is just making me even more excited for heading further inland, closer to the mountains, as we go through the centre of the Highlands, through the Caledonian Canal.
And next time we will do exactly that. Join us as we experience the joys of life on the canal, taking a shortcut through the stunning Scottish Highlands on a 200-year-old canal. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to make sure that you don't miss the next episode here on YouTube.
Continuing our voyage on Florence would not be possible without the support of our patrons. Thank you to all of you, and especially to our star patrons.